Welcome, artists, to this pastel painting tutorial where you will see this lovely golden meadow filled with beautiful cows come to life before your eyes. And I'm also going to be sharing with you how I transform reference images for stronger compositions. Often there's just so much going right in a reference image and you love it, but there's some things you want to change. As in this case, there were far too many cows all kind of huddled together. And I'm going to show you through the magic of Photoshop my thought process and how I rearranged this scene to make a more pleasing and strong composition. Just look at this beautiful field of cows. I was so attracted to the sunset glow of this field. Now, I did think the cows were a little busy. Look at that. That's a big conglomeration of cows. So what am I going to do to make this painting a bit more pleasing and painterly? Well, I saw this middle section of cows. It was just like cows all joined together. So I popped this in Photoshop, and what I'm doing now, this is not a Photoshop lesson. I'm using a healing brush to get rid of those cows in the middle. This is more of a composition lesson rather than a Photoshop lesson. And I decided to I love this cow. I love black and white cows. I had a cow in my field near where I live that was very much like this. So I'm going to move it. I'm going to scale it, move it back a little further, and I'm going to erase this one. Okay, so I'm using the same healing brush, and I'm going to take this cow and move it even further in the distance. So I copied it and I pasted it, and I'm shrinking it just to make it perspectively the right size. I flipped it also too horizontally. Now, I didn't do this before I painted it. I'm doing this in Photoshop to show you my thought process after I just conceptually painted this, intuitively, I guess I should say. And so now I have 3 of my cows. I kind of move this one around, and I'm going to once again get rid of this cow in the foreground. My thought process was, I want to lead the viewer in. I don't want to have cows right in the foreground. I want to have a beautiful meadow that pulls the viewer into the painting. Now, I'm doing something here that I'm doing after I painted it. Notice how I widened that right side. I'm going to use, again, the magic of Photoshop and artificial intelligent technology. This is called a generative fill. I'm going to just tell Photoshop, this is an area, I want you to expand it. And like magic, it will expand and generate content that goes along with this painting and this photo. So it's working right now. And it's just fantastic. I am so excited to be using technology like this just to be able to change things. Now, again, I did this after I painted it, this Photoshop example, just to show you guys my thought process. And I wish I had done it before because I didn't give that much extra room to the right side of my painting. So that's my little tip to you guys if you choose to paint this reference. So let me show you a before and after to give you a more clear picture. You see the huddle cluster of cows? That's acting almost like a wall to bringing the viewer into the painting. I felt as if the viewer should come in the lower left side of this painting and move towards the right to that focal point cow, which is the foreground cow that I have in my new image, and just lead the viewer gently through the painting to that beautiful sunrise. And I realize that many of you don't have Photoshop, but I want to stress again, I didn't use Photoshop before I painted this painting. This is something I did afterwards, and it is great. Photoshop is awesome, but you don't need it. And you can learn these skills just by practice. That's the greatest way to do things and to get better as an artist is do lots of studies. Now let's talk about this painting and the products. I love this surface. It's called Luxe Archival. It's professional sanded pastel paper, and I'm using a sheet that's 16 inches by 20 inches. I use the full sheet, and it might look a little expensive, but this is a large sheet. It's a package of 5. But if you want to try this surface, you can get the 8 by 10 sheets in a package of 10 for less than $40. It's like $35. And for a professional sanded pastel paper, that's not too bad. And if you don't even know what I'm talking about when it comes to sanded surfaces, the sanded surfaces for pastel painting is literally like sandpaper, but it's archival. It's going to last a long time. It's acid free. That's kind of what archival means. And it is a game changer for pastel painting because it allows you to layer. I first tried pastel painting just painting on some paper and the pastels were falling off. I almost quit pastel painting. I've learned everything I know online. I've been painting many years. Back before YouTube, I was trying to figure out how to pastel paint. So if I can do it, you can do it. Now, I'm just doing a simple sketch. My painting surface is the 16 by 20, and my reference image are proportionally the same. And it makes it really easy for sketching because I can see, based on the photo, just where things fall on the edge. I know that mountain that slopes up and that tree, I can see on the side of the paper, it's about a quarter of the way down. So I'm able to just, that's why you saw me making marks. I usually just make a halfway mark on vertically and horizontally, and I get an easy gauge as to where things are. Now, sketching out landscapes and painting landscapes for me over the years is pretty easy. And I always say it's because you can fudge a little bit with the positioning of a branch or a cluster of bushes. You can get interpretive, but when it comes to people and animals, you got to take things more seriously. And I know that I have to not only get these animals accurate with their gesture and their form, I want to perspectively get them correct as well. And I have a real quick favor to ask. Would you go ahead and click that like, thumbs up button? It really helps YouTube to share this video to more hungry artistic souls. This little pastel I've been using to sketch this cow is a Prismacolor NuPastel, spelled N-U-P-A-S-T-E-L, not N-E-W. And they only sell them in sets. They're affordable, but this is a dark color in that set. It's called Spruce Blue. You can't buy the stick by itself. You have to buy a set, but you could use anything to do this. Some charcoal pencil, whatever. And I am making sure, I first, of course, want to get the perspective of the cow right. I want to get the positioning of the cow correct. And like I said, when I was showing you the Photoshop example, I was going by the reference image and I put the cow's head, I think, a little too close to the edge of the painting. It doesn't look this way here, but when I add all the grass and everything, I felt like the meadow could be a little bit wider. So that's why in the Photoshop example, I expanded that edge. And by the way, if you're a patron of mine on my Patreon page, you will get a downloadable attachment to get my altered reference image if you want to paint from the altered image. Now, talk about perspective. I'm wanting to get this cow smaller in the distance, and I ended up doing this one kind of out of my head. I changed it from the reference. Now, what's that one cow doing laying down at the forefront there? Well, I changed it. Again, I did the Photoshop example after the fact, so I knew that I ended up moving this cow. I like things in threes. You'll see me erase that other cow in just a minute. Yes, you can get rid of things in a pastel painting. Pastel surfaces and pastels are very forgiving. So that cow will disappear soon. Now I'm going to do what's called an underpainting. This set is a set I love, a company I love, Earthberry Pastels. They're from Russia and I love their pastels. These colors are gorgeous. It's the Grand Canyon set. The reason I grabbed this set is I want to do an underpainting. Last month, by the way, in Monet Cafe was all about underpainting. So if you want to know what that is or you don't understand it, look to some of my previous lessons right before this one. And I am just getting in some value here for the cows first and a little bit of darker value in some areas. And now I'm going to start layering some color. Again, this is an underpainting. Literally what the name implies. It's a painting underneath your painting. When I was first painting in pastels, I thought, why? Don't you just cover it all up? But the underpainting has an influence on your final color. And if you paint impressionistic and painterly like I love and I do, then the underpainting is going to peek through the painting a bit and create a beautiful combination of colors. So why am I choosing in the field to paint these rusty colors and that kind of lavender that I painted. Well, I'm thinking ahead and I'm thinking underneath. What's going on under the grasses is there's earth and there's land and there's dirt. And I know that this orangey, reddish color will be a beautiful complement to the greens. Now, when I say compliment, I don't mean like, oh, you're such a pretty color. I mean a complement, as in opposite on the color wheel. If you look at the color wheel and you look across from greens and blues, there's typically warm colors. So we lay down these warm colors underneath, and usually warm golden colors are a no-brainer underpainting for landscape scenes, because you've got a lot of greens and blues in landscapes. So that's why I got down some of those colors. And the reason for some of my purples was more shadowy areas in the distance, as in these distant mountains, and a little bit in the foreground. I imagined this meadow where the foreground, the closest to the viewer, is almost like a hill rolling towards the viewer, and there's going to be some deep grasses, thus creating a more shadowy, cooler color underneath some of those reds that I put down. So now I'm just giving a little bit more value and color to these trees. And notice the main tree there that's leaning towards the sun. It's quite sparse in its branches, reaching over the mountains, so I didn't want to fill too much in there. And I'm giving a little more value to these cows. Now, these cows in this scene are backlit. That just means it's back, it's behind the cows. So our viewer side of the cows, they're going to be darker than you think. So I go ahead and get in some value for the cows. And I'm going to, the thing that attracted me to this reference image is the beautiful rim of color around the cows, the sunlight. I'm going to be showing you that soon. Now, I'm going to wash these pastels with alcohol. That's just regular drugstore alcohol, 70%. Obviously, the surface is water friendly, and I started with this. It's a Chinese, I think it's a Chinese watercolor brush or a calligraphy brush, and I wanted to choose a large brush. And I'll tell you soon, I abandoned this brush because the bristles were falling out, so I just switched to another large brush. So I always say use the largest. I don't even know what this brush is, but it doesn't matter really. You're just scrubbing in this pastel. So the alcohol is going to liquefy the pastel. And yes, water would work equally as fine. Alcohol just dries faster. I do think it makes the pastels blend a little more easily. But once again, this Luxe Archival is a water-friendly surface. And if you did not, if you are not working on a water-friendly surface, you can use just a paper towel to blend. If your surface is too gritty, you can use something like a packing peanut or a pool noodle. You can even cut up a little piece of a pool noodle. There's so many different blending tools you could use. So this looks like a mess right now, huh? Well, it's all going to come together, I promise. Now, I held up my little jar there a second ago because I switched my alcohol. The first batch was getting a little bit contaminated with dark color, and I knew I was going to be moving on to some of these lighter colors. So can you see how I'm holding my brush artistically? I'm not cinching up on it like a pencil. I'm holding it to where my arm can move and be very free. That's the goal of this underpainting. I'm getting in the alcohol to liquefy the pastels, and I want it to be loose and painterly. And just so you know, you get to where you can figure out how much alcohol to use. When I first started doing this, I added way too much typically, and it would just drip off the surface. But that's okay too. I mean, it's all right if it's a little drippy. This is your impressionistic beginning for this painting. And look how this color is just blending. And I'm making bigger, stronger vertical strokes here in the foreground. And I'm going to zoom in here so you can see me liquefying the pastels on the cows. And you can see it's quite dark. This is a backlit cow. And I just want to capture the essence of this cow, just the general form and gesture. And it's okay if everything right now is not perfect. I learned when I was trying to do figures in paintings or animals in paintings long ago that if I fiddle with it too much, if I got in here and I just did an excellent rendering of a cow with a little pencil or charcoal, the cow is going to feel pasted on. It's not going to feel like it's part of the scene. So less is definitely more at this stage. Again, the things that I stress is to perspectively get them right, they're receding into the distance, I do end up enlarging the second cow. It was a little bit too small there. And to get the form, like I said, just the general shape and form of a cow. Now let this dry. You can see it dries a little lighter. And now I'm going in and beginning this painting. I'm first getting in some of my values again, because when you liquefy the pastels, they do lighten a bit. And I'm focusing on my darkest values right now. And if you're brand new and you're like, what is value? It's just the lightness or darkness of a color. And it's really all about value. I've heard an expression that says value is king. Color just gets all the glory. Everybody's always talking about color, but it's really value that's doing the work in a painting. You've got to get your values right. And you can get creative with color. You don't even have to use the exact colors, but you definitely want to get your values as accurate as possible. So some of my darkest values are, of course, this left side of the painting, where there's a big old tree on the left side that I just blocked in a bunch of value. Now I'm just using a dark pastel. This little square that I'm using, it's a Terry Ludwig pastel. I love this company. It's an American company. The people are awesome. And this color looks black, but it's actually called eggplant. And it's a dark, dark purple. And it's really great for getting in dark values. Again, these cows are backlit. So I'm getting in some darks behind the sun in areas that I see. And later, you're going to see a beautiful sunlit glow that I put around, especially this main cow. Now, these are cool blending tools. I forgot I had them. I've been using them recently. I'm like, oh yeah, I love these. They're called Pastel Smoothies. They come in, I think, a set of 3, small, medium, and large. I wish I had one that was even larger for this painting. But they're really great for blending pastels if you need to get in little precise areas like this. And I'm just softening some of the values. This almost works like a paintbrush, because some of the pastel stays on it and you can move it around. And I'm just softening this background and just creating a general soft and impressionistic mood. You can see I'm obviously speeding this up a lot just so you can see how this blending works. Now, yes, a lot of pastel is falling off here. That's okay. I use a little aluminum foil trough. I've been using this method for years, where I just have it underneath my painting and it catches the pastel dust. Now I want to talk to you about another little set of pastels that I used in this painting. It's a set that I love, and it's on a site that I have for my Amazon shop, a place I have in my Amazon shop. It's called Idea List. I'll put a link to this in the description of this video. It's a list. This one, I have a whole lot of them. This one's called Beginner Basics, and I have these sets of pastels that I think are great for beginners. The first one is Paul Rubens. The second one is Color Block, and this third one is another Paul Rubens set, the one that I'm going to be using here. It's very affordable for beginners. I'm just flipping through some of the pages on Amazon, and this is one of the colors in that set, and I use a lot of colors from that set for this painting. I do use other pastels, by the way, for this painting, but I wanted to feature the Earthberry pastel set at the beginning for the underpainting, and this Paul Rubens set. Again, if you're a beginner artist and you don't want to put that much money into professional pastels yet, this is a great choice. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this is the painting that I first did for this month's theme, June 2025. The theme here on the channel and on my Patreon page is Down on the Farm. And that is my kind of a theme because I am a farm girl at heart. Just kind of love nature, love gardening, love animals, and I love cows. I really do. I was so blessed to live near a field of cows for a few years, and they became like my best friends. They weren't my cows, so it was great. I got to love on them and didn't have to feed them. I did feed them, though. They love watermelon, by the way. So anyway, I'm doing a little more blending here. And just so you know, I'm going to be really speeding this video up at this point and clipping it up to kind of show you the stages of this painting. If you would like the full version of this tutorial, I have it over on my Patreon page which is so affordable. It's only $5 a month to become a patron of mine. You can subscribe if you like and cancel at any time. It's not like you're locked into anything. I do have it now to where you can pay annually, you get a little 10% discount. And also, if you just don't like subscriptions, it's easier that way. But all of my commentary on what I'm doing here and why I'm choosing these colors is over on my Patreon page. It is sped up because this painting took me, oh gosh, probably about 3.5 hours. But I give commentary for the entire process, and I always share with my patrons how they can slow it down. I advise always watch the video. If you're a patron listening right now, watch the video first, listen to my commentary, and then you use my little trick to slow it down if you want to follow along. And by the way, I have a little promotional discount until June 14th. You can get 50% off the first month, just the first month, if you use coupon code 51024. And I'll have this information in the description of the video as well. I hope you become part of the family. We have so much fun. And for the rest of this lesson here on the Monet Cafe channel, I'm just going to jump ahead to certain segments of the painting. Here's where I added some of those deep grasses. Again, they're going to get lighter as they move towards the sun. And I wanted to go ahead and show you just a speed version of getting in this middle cow. I'm using a little piece of vine charcoal. It's a little stick of charcoal just to get my general cow shape again. And like I said before, to make it a little bit larger. And I'm using that same little Terry Ludwig eggplant pastel to get in my darks. And a question I get all the time is, how do you paint with such a chunky pastel and paint a small subject matter? And it's really just learning how to feel where the pastels are. Here I'm adding some of the lights to the cow, and I don't want to go white because it would look odd to the scene. It's just a lighter pastel. I'm adding some blues for the shadows, and just keep it simple. This is a cow that's far away. You don't need too much information for it to read as a cow. Here I'm just adding some of that sunlight glow on top of the cow using a little darker rusty color because the cow is black. And now I've jumped ahead a little bit on this cow. Again, if you're a patron of mine, I take you through the whole process of painting this cow and some of my reasoning for the color and value choices. And the back cow, I ended up just doing out of my imagination. I didn't really like the one that was in the reference image and the one that I altered in Photoshop. So I just wanted a general gestural form of a cow, and I wanted it facing to the left there. So this one's super simple because it's so far away. Just a little bit of value, a little bit of form. I'm negatively painting kind of in between the legs there. Cows' legs, as they taper down, get real thin. So you want to get that gesture right and get that gentle essence of a cow. I wanted to point out how I'm adding that little glow. The sun, again, is coming from the upper left, and it's backlit, but it's casting its warm light behind the cow, and we can kind of see through some of the little fur and hair that's hanging down, catching the sunlight. Now, I add a little grass, around it to soften it later. So I continue to develop this painting. The rest of it was I don't want to say a piece of cake, but a lot more free and loose and fun because I didn't have to get certain elements so correct as in the rendering of these cows. I loved some of the white little flowers that I saw in the reference image. This is another thing. I used my artistic interpretation and license to make the scene my own, and I thought these flowers, especially the foreground ones that are a little larger, was a good lead-in to pull the viewer in from the lower left of the painting and pleasantly meander through the field, through the cows, and up to the sun. This black cow looks a little too large from this angle of my camera. Now that makes more sense. So this was such a fun painting. I loved it. I really felt peaceful as I was painting it. And I hope you've learned a lot. I still provide free content here on the Monet Cafe channel. You can still learn so much here. I have hundreds of lessons on this channel. But again, if you'd like all the goodies, consider becoming part of my Patreon family. And as always, God bless. I mean that from the bottom of my heart, and happy painting.